Sam Darley here. Good evening, everybody. And tonight I'm going to be breaking you down the keys to victory for both the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 51. And Major League Baseball laid down the hammer on the Cardinals. They lost the first round and the second round pick to the Astros. They have to give that up and cash. Also, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Pro Bowl because I was actually impressed with Kirk Cousins and the heart he displayed even though he threw a pick. So let me start with the keys to victory for the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm going to start with key number one on offense. They got to run the football well. When they get that run game going, it opens up the play action game, which is really what Kyle Shanahan wants. It's no different than when Shanahan was in Houston and Cleveland and Washington. In the zone blocking scheme, the West Coast offense, it boils down to the run game. And the run game is the quarterback's best friend in most cases. And in this case, it's Matt Ryan's best friend. It will also help Matt Ryan to kind of calm down as the game progresses if he's got a run game to lean on. So this game is going to be about Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman dominating up front, dominating the line of scrimmage, and being dominant in the run game, and opening up the play action game for Julio and Sanu and that's another thing. They gotta get somebody other than Julio going, whether it's their tight ends, whether it's I have no idea who the tight ends are. One, because they're not very good. Two, you don't hear much about them. You hear more about Julio. And Sanu is a good number 2 receiver, and you hear a lot about Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, but you don't hear anything about their tight ends. This is Belichick, and against Bill Belichick, he always takes away your number 1 option. So you got to have a solid number 2, and number 3, and number 4 option, otherwise you're in trouble. But key number 3, keep drives going, because the one thing about New England is when they're able to establish rhythm offensively, because the other team, I'm going to use the Texans as an example. The reason the Texans bowed down in the fourth quarter defensively is because the Patriots had already established a rhythm. Why? Because the Texans kept going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And it's the same thing against the Steelers in the AFC title game. 3 and out, 3 and out. And the more you go 3 and out against New England, the more their offense gets on the field, the higher the chances of them getting into rhythm. And then, when they're in rhythm, you're just in trouble. So you got to get them off their... They would say about Brady, get him off his spot. It's the same thing with the Patriots offense as an entirety. You've got to get them off their spot. You've got to make them uncomfortable. You got to take them out of the rhythm early in the game and keep them out of the rhythm. And you got to keep... And to do that, you got to sustain drives. You've got to. And defensively, you got to hit Brady. You got to just keep hitting him. Because against the Texans, he took a absolute beating. And, you could see it on his face. He was breaking. Even though he eventually threw, two key touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And both of those touchdown passes were because of no pressure. No pressure on Brady. And he's not going to make any mistakes. At least not any game-breaking mistakes. You want him to make that game-changing mistake. You've got to get pressure, and you got to make him comfortable. You got to hit him. You got to hit him often. And you got to hit him hard. And on special teams, you literally have to win field position. You can't give the Patriots good field position because of a bad punt and I'm going to add in turnovers. You can't give the Patriots good field position whether it's a bad punt, a missed field goal, an interception. The smallest thing kills you against the Patriots. The smallest of mistakes. And for the Patriots, the key for them is to stop Atlanta's run game. I think when I think of Atlanta, I think everything that they can do. Obviously, Matt Ryan is a lot better than any of the other quarterbacks that Shanahan has coached in the past. No offense to Matt Schaub. But Ryan can beat you throwing it 30, 40 times. Schaub couldn't. Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins could not. and the quarterbacks, McCown, but he also had Johnny Manziel and Brian Hoyer. So those guys in Cleveland, so those guys can beat you either. But Matt Ryan can. You can't. But realistically, his offense really comes down to being able to run the ball well. And I think if New England could stifle the run game for Atlanta, then I think it's going to go a long way towards giving them another Super Bowl championship. I think another key is you got to come out and if you got the ball, if the Patriots have the ball first, they must come out and score a touchdown, put the pressure on the Falcons. They've never been in this spot. They've never been in this situation. And I think if you come out and you score a touchdown early in the game, you're gonna kind of put them on the heels a little bit. It's kind of like last year when the Broncos scored the first touchdown. It put the Panthers in a bad spot. You can't give any team with as little of experience in big games as the Atlanta Falcons anything to feel confident or feel calm about early in the game. So New England's got to take their confidence away early, and I think if they do that, it'll be all New England. But if Atlanta can that's another thing for Atlanta. They got to come out and get a stop early. They've got to get a good play, big play early in the game that kind of gets them going, gets the rhythm started. Because it's crazy how the difference between a regular playoff game and even a regular season game. Now you're in the Super Bowl. Everybody's watching you. The whole world is. It's a big media circus for the entire week and a half. And this week is going to be crazy because it is Super Bowl week. So I think emotions are going to be probably the biggest and most exciting factor in this game. But if Atlanta can control their emotions, I think they've got a good chance. But if they come out, look shaky, and New England comes out, puts a touchdown on the board early, this could get really ugly really quickly. But I think, my thoughts are, New England is a veteran team. They've been in this position many times. Atlanta's never seen this, and they've been in this type of game, at least not since 1999, but they didn't have Matt Ryan. They didn't have the players that they have now back then. This game could have a feel of Denver-Seattle when Seattle won 43-8. It could be. I'm not saying it will be. But it's going to come down to emotion, and I think Atlanta needs to calm down early, and if you're New England, you need to hit them in the mouth, essentially, and score an opening drive touchdown. Defensively on Julio Jones, you cannot let him have a monster game. And I think if you don't let him have a monster game and you keep Atlanta's run game in check, I think you pretty much get the game in hand. Because I don't think Sanu or their tight ends can beat you. But I've been wrong before. So, do I think Butler could take Julio one-on-one? No. No, I don't think there's any corner in the league that can guard Julio Jones one-on-one in man coverage. I just don't see that happening. So, and my last key for the Patriots is don't give the Falcons any momentum key plays, like a turnover, a bad, an interception, a bad kick, bad field goal, or just mental mistakes. Give the other team confidence. And I think you don't want to give a team that's ever been in this position anything to feel confident about. And that's just something New England. I think it's what New England has to do. They have to take their confidence away. So I do think it'll be a close game. Yeah, Atlanta breezed through the NFC playoffs essentially, despite everybody thinking that they would probably choke or go one and done. They're in the Super Bowl. And they're playing the Patriots, who literally, thanks to Brock Osweiler, are playing in their ninth Super Bowl, Their ninth Super Bowl. And why do I say no thanks to Brock Osweiler? Let's be realistic. If Houston had a better quarterback that night, they'd probably be playing the Super Bowl in their house. That defense, that run game, but at the end of the day, you gotta have a quarterback. Speaking of Brock Osweiler, I read an article today on the Houston Chronicle from Owen Daniels, who played with Brock in Denver. Not a lot, but he was around him in Denver. Said Brock should be given another chance, and I think he should. I think it's a fair assessment to say, well, he should get another shot. But this time, the Texans do need to draft a quarterback, simply because Tom Savage cannot stay healthy. You gotta have a franchise quarterback to have a shot in this league. It just doesn't matter how you're trying to spin it. Houston needs a quarterback, but I think if Brock had a legitimate threat to his starting position, then I think the Texans. I think the Texans would be either better because they got a franchise quarterback, or Brock would either take off because he's got somebody that can take his job. Whereas Tom Savage, the only reason Tom Savage got in the game this year is because Brock was so bad. And I do agree with Owen Daniels. Brock really looks like a totally different player than the guy that played in Denver. He looks a lot less confident. And you could say, well, Denver's defense masks his flaws, but at the end of the day, Denver offered $16 million a year. Houston outbid Elway. But I think, it's funny as I traded Brock for a second round pick, and I sent that to Dallas for Tony Romo, and so maybe that's what the Texans do. Is trade Osweiler and a second round pick for Romo. But no, the bottom line for the Texans is they need a quarterback. Super Bowl week is a time for football talk, and a lot of it's gonna be football. All eyes are on the football world. I just want to say something about the Pro Bowl too. Last night I tuned in late. I saw Kirk Cousins, in a meaningless game, throw a pick like he did at the end of the season to essentially knock out the Redskins from the playoffs. Well, John Gruden thinks that you can win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. No, you can't. No, you can't. You cannot win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. And here's why. Against elite opposition, the Redskins did not win a game at all. They're 0-9 against teams that are 500 or above with Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback these past 2 years. And then all you have to do is look at the last game of the season. Down by, down by a field goal, a chance to win the game in the final drive, and what does he do? He throws a pick. And Washington's going home because of their quarterback. They need a quarterback. They need to draft a quarterback, too. Only Redskin fans think that good stats mean everything. I mean, the good stats are nice, but at the end of the day, if you throw the pick that kicks your team out of the playoffs, excuse me, or knocks about playoff contention, sorry to tell you, but you're probably not a very good quarterback. Just throwing that out there. Probably not a good quarterback. But I think he plays a lot of heart, and I give it to him. He chased down Aqib Talib, who picked him off last night in the Pro Bowl, and again, a meaningless game. He ran it down, knocked the ball loose, and I respect that. I respect the heck out of that, because not everybody plays hard even in a meaningless game. Everybody's like, oh, it's a meaningless game, I don't need to play hard. I love athletes that play hard no matter the situation, and I give kudos to Kirk Cousins for doing that. Major League Baseball now. The Cardinals were spying on the Astros. They didn't get away with it. They lost 2 draft picks. The Astros get rewarded those picks. So the Astros now essentially have a chance to make a really good young team even better. The Cardinals getting hit hard. The Cardinals are the Cardinals. They find a way. They're like the Spurs and the Patriots. They always find a way to get better under extreme circumstances. And these are extreme circumstances. So I just think it's funny, the Cardinals spying on the Astros. These two teams used to play in the NL Central. I miss the Astros-Cardinals rivalry. This is why I hated the Astros moving to the American League. It's a rivalry. And it's a big rivalry. And if you don't believe me, watch the 2004 and 2005 NLCS. That is some of the best baseball you will ever watch. It's just classic game after classic game, and those two teams matched each other, run for run, pitch for pitch. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than Cardinals and Astros. It just doesn't. So, Super Bowl is upon us, y'all. It's Monday. I know you're dying to get off work and you're dying to watch the big game, but the Super Bowl's almost here. Falcons, Patriots. I'm going to the NFL Experience this weekend. Have you checked it out yet? Looks like loads of fun. Looking forward to going on Super Bowl Sunday, nonetheless. It'll be the last day it's here, and Houston is hosting it. Hopefully the construction is done. Baseball hit the Cardinals hard for spying on the Astros. Kirk Cousins played hard even though it was the Pro Bowl. And, after Super Bowl Sunday, we'll be talking draft, free agency, OTAs, and all that stuff, as well as NBA playoffs. Yeah, we're getting closer to the playoffs and even closer to baseball season. So there's really not really much of a time where there's a lull. There's kind of maybe there is a bit of a lull in between football season and the next football season, but not too big of a lull. You also got hockey. You got the hockey playoffs coming up soon, as well as the NBA. At the same time as the NBA playoffs. So, after the Super Bowl, it's going to suck to miss football for a while, but, we got other sports. This has been Sam Darley. Thank you for listening.